At Bootstrap MD, we're all about multiple streams of income. Just because you have a high salary doesn't often equate to having a high net worth. The key is diversification, but to do that, you need education. And that's why I invited my friends at Money Insights to come in and help us out. As you know, stocks, we don't get a lot of financial literacy, and oftentimes we don't even know what we're really investing in. So today we're going to have Wealth Building 101 for physicians. I'll be interviewing Ben Lonsdale and Rod Zabriskie from Money Insights. So let's talk about financial education and wealth building for doctors on this episode on Bootstrap MD. Hey guys, it's Dr. Michael Ming. Welcome to another episode of Bootstrap MD. So we've got a real cool treat for us today. I've got two guests on for the price of one. And I know we talk a lot about entrepreneurship and building your own business. And I've been talking to a lot of doctors, my fellow colleagues, about just revenue generation. And they want to get started with a business, but of course they're also concerned about, spending time away from their family and starting up a business because, and I'm the first to admit it, not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. But the great thing about being a doctor, or one of the great things, is obviously we generally have a higher income. But when I speak to a lot of doctors, and when it comes time to investing or finances, about where they're putting in their money, oftentimes it's, some of the things that they invested, let's just say it might not be the most healthiest of vehicles. In fact, I had a friend who was a physician, financial advisor, and she came up to me once, she said, "I'm done with working with doctors because they don't listen to what I have to say." And I go, that sounds like most of my friends. Well, here's the good thing, guys, is I've got two gentlemen here who love work with doctors, and especially when it comes to investing. And some of the things that they have here are some really interesting alternative vehicles that you may or may not be familiar with. So I did my research and I got a hold of these guys, and they've got something that I think will be very interesting to share with you. So I've got on the program here, we've got Rod and Ben, and they're from Money Insights. And they specifically work with doctors and helping them move from high income to high net worth. So I want to learn all about this here. And they talk about all the physician challenges that they've had, can say almost exclusively work with physicians. I know they also work with dentists and other, high net worth individuals, but because they are this is their niche, they understand us, which I was surprised because oftentimes I think, us doctors, we need to have another doctor to help help us with that. So I'm not going to prolong it any further. Rod and Ben, thank you for joining me on the program today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So let's talk about Money Insights. So I'm looking for good insights here. But first and foremost, maybe you guys can talk about how Money Insights came to be.
Yeah, so Money Insights, it's been a road for us. And so myself and my partner, Christian Allen, started Money Insights maybe 5-6 years ago. And it really was born from this need for different ways of doing things, right? I think the thing that we run into so much is people who have been fed the traditional lines of investing and 401ks and things like that. And we're not here to say that there's no role for those things. But what we find is that there are a lot of people out there who want more, who don't feel like they're getting what what they've been sold on that side of things. And so when it comes to investing and moving into more what we call alternative investments, real estate, businesses, notes, cash flow investment types of things, we just meet a lot of people who are doing that, and for obvious reasons, right? But one of those is to be able to replace their income with cash flow from different sources, and kind of putting their future in their own hands, so to speak, having that independence, or at least the ability to become as independent as they want. And so there's that dream out there, but then there are maybe some roadblocks to getting there. And so some of the strategies that we have and that we'll talk about today are very specific to smoothing out that road in that world of alternative investing.
Yeah, you have what's called the investment optimizer. So I'm really curious about what that is. But like you said, most of us, know about, hey, most of the doctors that I know of, they generally work as an employee for some place, and maybe they'll meet with somebody who is from the organization saying, here is their 401k plan. This is what you could do. Maybe you got a choice to decide if you want to be more aggressive or not aggressive, whatever it is. You end up just signing something and then it's gone, right? Then you don't hear from them. And then you just hope, that it improves. But, as we know, lately, especially, as the time of recording this, we're still, hopefully we're getting out of the pandemic, but a lot of people trusted that guy who is having them sign up for that 401k. I mean, I know personally, my mother, who is a public health nurse, she's retired. She says, I just lost 20 or 30% of my 401k this last spring. Yeah. So what I like about what you guys do is you have a wide variety of different vehicles that you can go into. I mean, I'm all about multiple streams of income on my podcast, about different ways of generating income. So at least, if you put all your eggs in one basket, like say the stock market, there are other eggs that you have, so to speak. So let's just talk about, what is this investment optimizer strategy you have to help others build wealth?
Yeah. So really what, focusing specifically on the investment optimizer, it's really for, those physicians and those people that are in your audience. People that are saying, hey, I recognize that I need to take control of my financial future. I need to dive in. I need to learn about this. I need to specifically take action and improve my own education around these types of things. And then we really then help them put that money, and specifically for this strategy, to improve all the investments and actually create a secure, predictable foundation where they can build their opportunity fund. So it's predictable, it's tax-free, it has protection from creditors and litigation. It's a powerful opportunity fund that also provides a death benefit that they can provide for their legacy that they don't have to pay for in any other way. And so there's just a lot of benefits where they can use this to improve their other investments. They'll understand this strategy completely. And then also to be able to have all these benefits by putting their money into this very powerful opportunity fund.
Let's talk about, this is really cool, but let's talk about money insights in terms of why you guys wanted to work with physicians. I mean, I know, yeah, they're generally a high net worth, but I'm sure there are other things that attracted you to working with this audience.
Yeah, I would say that it was kind of like we were traveling down a road, and a lot of these physicians that we work with were traveling down a road, and we just met. So I kind of talked through the evolution of how Money Insights came to be and doing what we do now, and we just met a lot of physicians that were, again, tired of just relying on Wall Street to make things happen, and getting into investing in real estate. And a lot of it's natural, right? A surgeon being a partial owner in the surgical center, for example, the dentist who owns his building, whatever, right? So a lot of that's natural. And yet, again, even beyond that, looking for other opportunities to be in this cash flow investing space. And so more and more as we met up with them and introduced the solutions that we bring to the table, there just was a really natural synergy that existed.
Very, very cool. Now, I know, guys, you've talked about different vehicles that you have access to. I know it does, for some, it does require you to have a significant net worth. I think they called it an accredited investor. I believe that's the term. But why is it that's important in terms of this? I guess from what I gather, there are only so many type of investments that, or at least it opens up a lot of type of investments based upon your net worth. Is that correct?
Right. It does. It does. And really the whole kind of label of an accredited investor has a lot to do with the way that the specific investments are regulated. So I think the assumption is that higher income people, maybe the assumption is they have more to, or they can afford to lose, right, if they make a bad investment choice. And so, the SEC or the FINRA doesn't have to be as looking over their shoulders as if they do for maybe more of middle America. But when it comes to the types of real estate type, for example, syndications is one category of investments that one would have to be accredited to work with certain operators out there who put their deals together, and as long as you're working with the right operators, then they're still providing the same level of information about the investment, the property, the way it's set up, as it would be if it was subject to the regulators. But really, it puts the responsibility where it should be, and that is on the shoulders of the investor, so that you're not taking too much for granted as you approach and want to invest in that type of a vehicle. But it's again, it gives you opportunities that not just anyone can have access to, that's put for the higher income individuals.
And what I like about what you guys are is you guys have a conversation with these doctors, especially if those are saying, hey, you know what, I don't know if I don't know if I qualify. You kind of help them through the process to determine what is, if it is, and if not, and they can help determine what's the best path for them. Is that right?
Yeah, and I would say, especially as it relates to the investment optimizer, our whole thing is not as much to tell someone what they should be investing in or how they should approach investing, but really to take that person and their experience and where they've come from and the kinds of things that they're interested in doing. And then we're going to custom tailor that strategy to the individual and really to where they want to go. We'll understand their objectives and then help them get on a path. And quite honestly, we're not the people who are providing the syndications or things like that. What we primarily do is build systems and processes around that investing to make it better, so to allow them to make more out of what they're doing with those investments.
Yeah,
I love that, especially as someone who was kind of approached when I was graduating residency by these financial investors, and it really got me wary because they were basically telling me what fund they want me to be in. Mm-hmm. And who knows, I'm sure they had an ulterior motive, obviously, in this aggressive fund or whatever it is there was. And what I like about it, what you just said, is you're just letting me know what is available. And I think a lot of the problem is just education. Mm-hmm. Is the information that's out there, what is available. And you mentioned, go ahead.
Oh, and I think too, the individual often has things that are at their disposal that we wouldn't even their disposal that we wouldn't even know about. So, for example, again, the surgeon, right, who could be buying into the surgical center, and obviously that's something that's just accessible to that person because of who he or she is and just what they're doing, and so we see that a lot. And so again, we're not trying to take responsibility for the actual investment piece as much as what our role is to enhance that investing that they are and will be doing. They're going to do it either way, right? And so let's just build a process and a system around them, so just to make it better.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So you mentioned different types of vehicles that you guys have access to or help educate us about. One of them is, in real estate. Another one is in life insurance. And I know, and no offense, guys, but I know sometimes some are listening on this program and they hear life insurance, whole life insurance, and it conjures up some things in their head. Could be positive, it could be negative. I'm probably telling you something you haven't heard of before. So let's just talk about it. Maybe you can kind of educate us about life insurance and why that's important to use as a vehicle in terms of growing and protecting your wealth?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. We do hear it all the time. And so up to this point, we've been talking about the investment optimizer, right? And with other strategies that we use, we're actually using whole life in doing that. And again, like you said, typically when people hear whole life, it's not really great things that are being spoken of, right? And I would agree in the sense of the traditional whole life policy you might get from the agent down the street. Right?
They're probably listening to Dave Ramsey. No offense, but
yeah,
he's
no, that's
very, he's a big megaphone, and he's one out there just stamping against whole life insurance. So I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Sure. Yeah. No, he and others as well, and I think what's maybe the consistency among those people who tend to kind of the gurus out there that speak against it, they fit into that category of what I was talking about earlier. It's Wall Street, right? So in terms of, well, if you ask him or some of these other gurus, where should I be investing? Well, they say, well, you should be in Wall Street and you should be doing these things. And the challenge is that when you throw a blanket over everybody and say, this is what everybody should be doing, the challenge is that's not, it doesn't fit really well. And so again, you asked earlier about how do we, or why have we come to just work a lot with physicians? And that's one of the reasons why is because we're not on that regular path, right? And so then now, okay, well, why whole life insurance? And to begin with, what we're doing and the way that we build the insurance policy is very different than what Dave Ramsey and those others are talking about, right? And so to begin with, it's a different starting point for the conversation. Because in other words, if you went down to the local agent and you said, okay, I want life insurance, I want $1 million of insurance, then they would say, okay, well, would you want term or whole life or whatever, right? Whereas in our case, what we're doing is we're talking about investing, and specifically cash flow investing, and what can we do to improve that opportunity fund that Ben talked about a minute ago, because there are just some natural inefficiencies that exist in saving up money to go out and invest in real estate, for example. And once you invest, then it starts kicking off some cash flow, and where do I put that cash flow while I'm waiting and building up to go back out and do it again? And so that's where the whole idea of using whole life in this context, that's the starting point for our conversation. And so our whole idea when we build these whole life policies is to minimize costs, maximize growth of the cash value inside of it, because we want to take advantage of those benefits. The fact that it grows tax-free, the fact that it can continue to grow even while we're investing with it. And we'll probably get into some more detail here in a minute about that, but it just provides some unique characteristics that we can't get with anything else. And so we use it, and it becomes a critical piece for our clients in the course of investing in real estate and other things.
And I understand that, it's not just every insurance company has this. You work with specific insurance companies that give you this benefit. You want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. So we actually, we're brokers, so we can work with almost any insurance company we want. So we have our choice. And so what we do is we really break them up into really two different criteria that they have to meet. So the first criteria, they have to be extremely financially strong. They have to be A-rated, right? These are really strong companies. These insurance companies are also what are called mutual insurance companies. That means that they are looking to benefit the policy holders, right? That's why, these policies, they pay a 4%, and then they also pay a dividend, to those that have policies with them, which helps grow that cash value tax-free.
Dividends.
Yeah.
When do you pay?
Yeah. And then also, these are companies that are really consistent. They've been paying these dividends for over 150 years. Wow. So once we look at that, we really whittle it down to maybe 8 or 10 companies. And then at that point, then Rod and Christian and we go in and we look at the different kinds of policies they have. And do these policies meet the kind of criteria that our clients need who are actively investing? So are they very efficient? Do they have extremely low cost? Is the capital, growing, pretty aggressively over time? And are they very liquid? So it's really important to be able to pick the right company, and then also to have it be structured correctly, like Rod talked about. That's probably completely different than what people have seen or heard about in the past. So good question.
I know with insurance companies, and I get this, a lot of times, even if I know this is comparing things, but let's say like here in California, we've got earthquake insurance, okay? And so you pay for this type of insurance, but then if you read the fine print, you don't get any type of credit protection in terms of like we'll pay out as long as this occur, and it never fulfills the criteria. So a lot of times when we're investing in it, we don't know if our credit is being protected. From what I understand, though, that is something that you really strive for when you're looking at these companies to make sure that we're protected, correct?
Yeah, so I would clarify that to say that the actual idea of cash value life insurance being creditor protected, it exists really at the state level. And so each of the states has laws on the books that allows cash value life insurance to be protected. Now, I will say that it differs from state to state. There are states that would protect 100% of what you have in your cash value, no matter how large that policy is, right? You could have millions in that cash value of your policy and it'll be protected. And then there are other states who have less protection. They'll put limits on it, or there are things like that. So what we do is we just understand at the state level where that protection exists. But either way, even if it's not written in and protected by code, there are ways that we can put wrappers around it to make sure that it is protected. Because at the end of the day, like you said, the insurance, and in this case, it's really easy to know whether the insurance is going to pay out or not, right? The person's either dead or they're not. So it's a little more clear cut, but even from the standpoint of that kind of creditor protection of the cash value, it's important that the opportunity fund is not only efficient and growing and tax-free and those things, but that it's there when you're ready for it. And so that becomes a big piece. If, a lot of you, I'm sure, are concerned about lawsuits and kind of this,
sure,
target you have on your back, so to speak. And so this can become a piece where you don't have to worry as much about it being, accessible to frivolous lawsuits or creditors.
Yeah, definitely. You want peace of mind. That's something, when you are in this arena, they do look for the ones who have the bigger pockets. So yeah,
yes,
it's good to hear that. So before we got on the call, you said you guys said something that was really interesting to me. Is I'm all about letting your money work for you than against you. And you brought up something where you say you can create value in two places using the same dollar at the same time. I kind of understand it, but maybe you can kind of clarify that to me. What do you mean by that, creating value in two places?
Yeah. So, and we'll dive into this more. We have a lot of resources on our website. We have lots of great webinars on our website. So
awesome.
There where we can dive into that more, and we'll talk about, that website and URL today. But to kind of break it down for you in a really basic way is, as you put money into that opportunity fund in the policy, you're gonna grow basically this bucket. And when it's time to then utilize that money to make an investment, you're not going to ever move that money. You're going to use the insurance company's general fund. And so you're going to use their money using leverage. Your money stays in that original policy, continuing to grow, compounding, but then you're going to be able to then put it into another investment where it will also spin off a return. And then, like Rod mentioned earlier, you're going to then, as that cash flows back, you're going to funnel it back into the policy, and then, you're going to re-up, and then you're going to deploy it again. And so that's how that money really in two places at once works. And yeah, go ahead, Ron.
And we get asked about this. It almost sounds like magic when you say it, right? But again, it's the whole idea is the whole idea is it's leverage, right? So if you think about the whole idea, if I own my home, right, and I want to take a HELOC against my home and take that money and maybe go buy a rental property with it,
Right.
I'm creating value in multiple places using that. And so this just fits into that same category. Like Ben said, I have my account, I've built up some value into it. I'm going to take a loan against it, use those funds to go and invest. And then as I'm funneling that money back, then as I'm creating that cash flow from that investment, I am quite literally creating value in multiple places at the same time.
So I want to drill down, guys, because I want to get some specific for our listeners. You talk about investing. So how exactly do they use these policies as an investment vehicle?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we have clients that across the gamut. So we've talked about real estate, right? Physical real estate, rental properties, commercial properties, syndications. We also have people who are investing in their own business using these policies. So for example, a physician who needs to buy a piece of equipment using a loan from against the policy to go and do that. That's creating additional value inside of their business, right? Or investing in somebody else's business, right? These opportunities come up, and again, by doing that, creating cash flow. Hard money lenders who have people approach them for loans, and loaning the money out at say 8, 10, 12%. This is a great way to facilitate that as well. So when we talk about an opportunity fund for investing, it can really fit anything you want, right? There is no limitation as to what you could use it for, but those are examples of the types of investments that our clients we see using the investment optimizer for.
Very cool. Very cool. Now I'm going to take myself back into years. I tend to do this as you guys are talking. And when I was in chemistry, I learned that there were different forms, bear with me guys, different forms of, chemicals. So you had a gas, you had solids, and you had liquids. And I thought those were the three things you had. But then when I realized, when I talked with investors, they said, this is liquid, our is liquid. And then what I found out is there were different forms of liquidity that I wasn't familiar with. So you mentioned, I think Ben, you had mentioned that that the investment vehicles are liquid. I know about our savings and our checking. We're able to get money easily, that we can fund in alternative deals. So how liquid is liquid? Some of these deals.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm getting at here?
No, that's a great question and great example. Is it liquid, or is it more of or is it more Jello?
Is it more fleshy? Is it jelly?
Yeah. And in this case, it is. It's liquid. It's liquid, and it's available. It's available to these investors. In fact, in the fact that it is so liquid and it's available to them, as easy as a phone call, we can even, facilitate. They can call us, and they get that capital in a matter of days. And not only that, there's no underwriting process. There's no amortization schedule. They have complete access to that money, and then they have complete control of it once it comes from the insurance company to them. And in fact, in one of our webinars that they can see on our website, is we actually show a comparison between, hey, what if I put my money into a savings account, or if I put it into this opportunity, the investment optimizer opportunity fund, and what would that look like over time as I made investments? And the difference is pretty substantial. And so, yeah, we invite your listeners to look at that, watch that webinar, because it would surprise them. So
guys, this has been great. As you can tell, these guys are pretty laid back. I thought I was laid back, but Ben, you're almost comatose. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just picking on him. No, he's a good guy. I got to know these guys. Obviously, what I like about it, it's different than I know most of, at least for me, sometimes when I deal with financial planning, I talked about it. It was more about them trying to get me and persuading me to do something that I didn't really know a lot about. And unfortunately, there are people out there who kind of pray for doctors, knowing that, they make income, and they try to get them into some type of vehicle that sounds sexy, and it's but you don't really understand it. We're not talking about some Bitcoin / CBD / vehicle that I'm
Right.
sure many of us um, have been exposed to. You just solid things that just work over time. Paying out dividends year after year. This is what they have to provide for you. From what I understand, how do they work with you? It all starts with conversation.
Sure. And I would say that our process is very much education oriented. So we've talked about, webinars that we have and things like that. And so we do really try to get the information in the hands of people so that they can, first of all, understand it. And then once they see kind of what it is and want to have that conversation, then we'll get on a call and talk through. And like I said earlier, it's all about understanding their objectives and building a system around that person and their family and the goals and those kinds of things, so that with whatever investing that they are going to do anyway, that we can just build something that helps them do things, a lot better, a lot more efficiently. And so we'll engage in conversations. We'll send additional content, like Ben said, webinars and or white papers or whatever, puts them in a position where they can learn. Because it's important not just to understand in terms of deciding whether or not they want to have an investment optimizer, strategy and use it, but how to use it, right? Be in a position where when they are out there analyzing deals and putting things together and making things happen, that it becomes a core piece of what they're doing. And so that's our goal from an educational standpoint, is to empower that level of understanding so that it becomes a tool that they can use and just make things better along the way.
Right. So if you guys want to get started with them, we do have a URL where you can go to. Do you guys have that?
Yeah. So that it's moneyinsights.net and then /bootstrap MD. And we built this site so it just has a lot of education. It has that white paper that Rod talked about. And this white paper and in these webinars, we really dive into the details so they can actually really understand a little bit more of a deeper dive about our strategies. And then also on that site, they can also set up just a totally, laid back, no commitment consultation with Rod or I to just go over what their goals are and how this would fit into that. So, yeah. And again, that's moneyinsights.net /bootstrap MD.
You guys, this has been an education, and I really appreciate it, because I know for many of us, I know specifically, for myself and just talking to colleagues, we get no information, education on financial literacy. I have my own practice. I had to learn business, on my own, the School of Hard Knocks. And then in terms of finances, I mean, this is not just pertaining to medical students. I mean, college in general. My son just graduated college. Nothing in terms of different types of vehicles, even the simple things like, 401k and savings and things like that.
Yeah.
Little or none do they get that. And, it's unfortunate. Many people are still in this country working paycheck to paycheck. We know, what's going on, especially with the pandemic, even things like for doctors where they've lost their income because they couldn't keep the hospitals. They were shutting down the hospitals from that, allowing them to do elective surgeries. So It's obviously something that is all first and foremost we need to have. And did you want to say something before we end the call today?
We're just grateful to have had this chance to visit with you, and grateful for your interest and just, in terms of spreading the word and helping these physicians, because we understand. I mean, there are unique challenges that physicians face in terms of, getting started late and feeling this pressure to make up for lost time. And unfortunately, it often turns into taking undue risk and misplacing some of that. And so we don't want to see that. We want to be an advocate and a resource to help people to do it the right way, do the best way possible, and not put as much emphasis on the return and that kind of thing, but by creating streams of income and things like that, that's going to allow you to get ahead a lot more quickly and a lot further than if you just focus exclusively on that return.
One thing I did want to mention too is, because I know people are listening to this, that it sounds great, but I've got medical school loans I got to worry about. I'm dealing with that. But you guys work with doctors. You you kind of know that most doctors have medical school loans. I assume you know this, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we see that, and it's, you don't ignore it, right? We don't pretend like it doesn't exist. You just build it into the system and build a process around all of the factors, right? The whole idea of, hey, we need to build toward retirement, but don't forget we have these student loans that we need to make sure we take care of as well. And so just understanding the pieces and putting together something that is all inclusive and takes everything into account.
Yep.
Awesome. Rod, Ben, thank you for your time. Again, guys, the website to go to is moneyinsights.net/bootstrapmd, and that's all lowercase, bootstrapmd. And once you go there, you'll get access to the white paper, able to watch the webinars, and then you could set up a consultation with Rod or Ben. You can choose which one you like better, I guess, but depends on their schedule there. But again, these guys know their stuff. They work with docs. They understand us, and just helping you. That's what this reason I do this podcast is, just helping other doctors, realizing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You guys are working hard. You're saving lives. You're doing the greater good. Now let your money work for you, against you. And this is what Money Insights provides for us. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you,
appreciate it. And as always, stop looking backwards, keep moving forward.